Hey, Roberta, how are ya? I am Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Caitlin, how are you? Paula D. Penley, good to see you. Chase the Heat. It's my brother, Johnny Scoville. I'm surprised you didn't know that. How are you, Johnny Scoville? Good, good. Kestrel, good to see you. Paula Penley, how are you? Mr. Wolf, what's happening? Lynn Sanity, glad you're here. Hey, Badger Life. You know what, folks? Every once in a while, you got to come back and revisit something, especially if you were so damn right about it, right? I'm sorry, but boy, did I kill this one. Danielle McCoy, how are you? Hey, Faye. You know, people, I did a show on Sarah Boone. I really do want to call her Suitcase Sarah Boone. I don't want to be disrespectful to the Torres family at all, but this woman is such a lowlife. She really is. Millie the Dandelion, good to see you. She is an epic freaking lowlife. One of the worst human beings that I've certainly ever covered. You know, anything that I've talked about. Antisocial, good to see you. I've never talked about anybody that was more reprehensible, and I mean that. I mean, Diddy's a disgusting person, but the callousness of old Sarah Boone is just, it's legendary. If you're unfamiliar with the case, and chances are you're not, because we all kind of run in the same circles, but if you're unfamiliar with the case, let me bring you up to speed. Sarah Boone, a woman, according to herself, is a battered woman. And I'm not suggesting that she didn't have a really bad relationship. Damn, I had this on wrong. I'm not suggesting she didn't have a really bad relationship, because she obviously had a very bad relationship with a gentleman by the name of Jorge Torres. George Torres. She used to get drunk with this guy regularly. According to her, he forced her to get drunk. Everything this disjointed, crazy woman says, I'm sorry, people, she's a nut job. She's a nut job. Imagine this. Imagine this. You get drunk and you talk your boyfriend into getting inside a suitcase, right? Because you're going to play hide and seek. Perhaps the rules of hide and seek have changed since the 1970s, but normally you don't want to tell the person where you're hiding, or worse, ask for assistance in the process of hiding. It makes the person who's looking for you, makes their job way too easy. You know what I'm saying? James, good to see you. James Collins, glad you're here. James Sharp, doing all right? Sarah Boone, here's your sign. Yeah. Listening to him beg from inside the suitcase is so awful, says Paula Penley, and boy, is it. Hi, B minor. One of the worst things that any judge has ever had to endure is watching a man beg for his life. The jury got to see that too. And here's the amazing thing. When she gets up the following day, she let this man stay in here until after 12 o'clock, right? And when she opens the suitcase, she leaves him in there, right? She realizes he's in there. She calls 911, leaves him in the suitcase. And she's obviously hammered, right? There is something going on with her in a big way. She is polluted. You know, not exactly sure what she's on. Obviously, she had a drinking problem. Hold on one second. Hey, John, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. You were staying for your sobriety, but you're heading for a relapse. Well, speaking up is the first sign of the fact that you know deep down you really don't want to do this, right? And it's also what distinguishes people who are successful in recovery to people who are not. If you suffer in silence, if you walk away without asking for help, then you're probably screwed. Debbie, I did get a little bit of sleep, not a whole lot. It was kind of a tough night. It was kind of a tough night. John, talk to me. Tell me what's going on, man. Tell me what's going on. The woman in the suitcase case isn't going anywhere. I mean that literally, by the way. She is going nowhere. All right. Well, John, I'd love to hear what's going on, and we're definitely here for you. In the interim, here's what happened with this case. So this woman calls the police. The police show up. Her man is zipped up in this suitcase where he was left overnight, and she gets interrogated. And most of what she says is disjointed as hell and makes absolutely no sense, which is fine, right? That happens a lot. Unfortunately, when she was looped out the night before and she zipped this dude up. Hello, Sid Green. Hi, Tina Serlin. Hey, Debbie. How are you? When she zipped him up, she then also grabbed her cell phone, right? And decided to take some video of him inside the suitcase, begging for his life, while the weight of his body in the position that he was in was slowly suffocating him. It's an absolutely god awful way to die. An absolutely god awful way to die. Then, when she's confronted with this, right? The incredible thing is she still believes, after they realize that there's a video of her saying, F you, right? This is, now you know what it feels like when you're choking me. F you. I mean, just brutal. He's begging for her, saying, Sarah, Sarah, over and over again. To which she replies, that's my name. Don't wear it out. Now you know what it's like. Right? All those times that you beat on me, all of those times you choked me, all of those times, what it sounds like is premeditation. In a really big way, it sounds like premeditation, right? So what happens? Well, she gets into the process like everybody else does. She gets a public defender because she can't afford to hire her own attorney. She gets a public defender. And then another, and then another, and another, and another, and another, till finally she decides that she's going to go pro se. Now, she will say if you listen to her narrative, they forced her to go pro se, which is absolute bunk. But then eventually she writes up a flyer, I kid you not, from inside jail. She puts a flyer together that says, hey, you want to get famous? You want a trial that's really going to help the world to find out who you are? Are you challenged by tough cases? Blah, blah, blah. Craziest crap you've ever seen, but it worked. She got somebody that was willing to come and talk to her. Suitcase nutcase, that's about right, Sir Tedrick. Hey, Susie Oberholtz. Not too late. Not too late. Just a couple of minutes. So the incredible thing is this, and I've talked about this so many times, right? This is the insight that I think a lot of people don't get unless you've been a bad person. Unless you've spent some time in the legal system. This is probably not something that jumps off the page at you. But they don't want to go to trial, ever. They don't. In the federal system, they never do, right? They never have to go to trial. The percentage of people, hey, Miss Dragon, good to see you. You're in my thoughts and prayers. The percentage of people that go to trial in the feds is minuscule. Everybody pleads guilty, right? And they incentivize you to plead guilty to make the process more streamlined and, in theory, to save a crap load of money, right? So, did they try to incentivize Sarah? You betcha they did. You betcha they did. They did everything they could to incentivize Miss Boone. In fact, now, depending on who you believe, there are different numbers that are thrown out there. So let's just go with this one. And let's say that they had a deal on the table that would have had her out of prison in 15 years. There are people out there saying that it's 7 or 9. You know, she does have to do 85%. Whatever the number, call it 15. All she had to do was plead guilty. They were putting something on the table that was going to make sure that she got to see her son again, you know, in some place other than a prison visiting room. That she would have had a shot at a life of some kind. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate that. I really do. Shout out to anybody else that walked with me. It's a rugged night last night, but I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, look, they tried to give this woman a chance at life. She is such a mother-loving narcissist that she could not take that what they set on the table. At her interrogation, when they show her the video, when they put all of this out there, and as I say, it screams premeditation. There's malice in her voice. You can hear her saying, F you. This guy's begging for his life. Sarah, I can't breathe. Sarah, I can't breathe. F you. It doesn't get any colder than that, man. I mean, that is ice friggin' cold, right? And they give her a shot at not spending the rest of her life in prison. And by the way, I know Johnny Scoville and a lot of other people go, life doesn't mean life anyway. You get life in prison. It doesn't mean you're going to get life. The Menendez brothers are going to get out, by the way. I think they should, so don't yell at me. But there's a lot of people who still look at these cases and say, you know, you get a life sentence. It doesn't really mean you get a life sentence. There's an excellent chance you can get out. You just have to do X, Y, and Z. But whatever the case may be, in the state of Florida, she's getting natural life. Like, they're not screwing around. How? Yeah, she wants a redo. She absolutely wants a redo, James Sharp. Sid Green. Sid Green, send me a link to that if you can, because I will brain fart that before the end of the show. But if that's that sounds like it would be interesting to look into. Send me a link about that to Tommy Scoville at gmail.com. Goodness gracious. For the last few shows, I've been, if I say anything to get people angry, I've been saying, yeah, send me any emails you're bummed out about to Johnny Scoville. I don't know if my brother's getting the hate mail yet, but I really do like the idea of it. Yeah, Sir Tedrick Walker sums this up. I've always said, mischief managed, you will need to swab the deck. You know the drill. Sarah Boone begged for her life sentence with that blame everybody but herself with the statement and letter she read, made it real easy to give her the full sentence. Sir Tedrick Walker, that is exactly everything that happened right there in a nutshell. You want to talk about an unhinged statement? Holy hell. This is one of the dumbest things that you have ever seen that somebody say in a courtroom. Hey, Vixen, I'm not kidding you. One of the dumbest things ever. She comes out and she starts in with this kintsukuroi, right? Which is, some people say kintsugi or some version of that. It's an art form in Japan where when pottery gets cracked or broken, instead of throwing it out, they use gold to repair it. And that's very cool. And there's a bunch of great stories about it. I've done a couple of shows on it before. It's a very, very cool it's a very cool art form, and there's a whole lot of it's a great metaphor for life because we're all damaged to beat hell, right? She made a great speech. If you were making it at a TED Talk, but maybe at your sentencing, she came out and said, "I want you to know that I forgive George Torres, the man she zipped up in the suitcase." Well, that is absolutely solid of you. Right? With his family in the room, she said, "I forgive the family for letting this crap happen. I forget." It was I, all the way. And then towards the very end, right? It's the most unhinged crap you ever saw in your life. She was the ultimate victim, says Stephanie. She even blamed his kids. She blamed everybody. Everybody. The police didn't do enough. There was nobody that this woman did not blame except Sarah. She took zero, and I do mean zero accountability. Yeah, you know what? It was honestly one of the most disturbing things, but this isn't going to be a popular opinion, I promise you, but it gives you an idea of just how brain damaged this individual is, right? There's a part of me that feels so bad for this woman because there's a parallel to Sean Combs always, but there is actually a parallel here to Sean Combs. This is the kind of narcissism that will not allow someone to take a deal, even if that deal is the greatest thing that has ever happened. Why? Because she didn't do this on purpose. You understand? She didn't do this on purpose. If you start counting the number of times that Sarah Boone has said, "I didn't do this on purpose," I think that it's she wants the world to know she did not do this on purpose. Don't believe what you hear on the videotape I made. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your ears. Don't buy into any of that. When you watch that video, the suitcase moves, right? Because there's two different videos. Then the suitcase moves. It moves a long way. She dumped it, rolled it over, dumped it, talked him on his head, docked him on his side, then his other side, then his head, then his ass, over and over again, pushing this guy around. And it is alleged, oh, who cares? What is she going to get out and sue me? We'll throw one out anyway. Allegedly, she may have pushed him down the stairs. The amount of injuries that this guy had on her body, and what does she say? That's nothing compared to the injuries he's done to me. When they said, hey, there were marks on him, her response was, we had a great day. We had a beautiful day. Towards the end of her disjointed and unhinged diatribe that she did in her sentencing, towards the end of that, she said, and I do want to remember the good days. And you thought for a brief second that maybe there's a glimmer of humanity, right? Because she's forgiving somebody that she killed and doing it for a long time, just over and over again, forgiving all these people. And then you see that glimmer of humanity when she says, but you know what? I do want to remember the good days, because she was saying how she thought of them all the time. Of course, the good days were only yours, not mine, because I was waiting the whole time for you to snap and throw me out the door. There was never a point at any time during that sentencing where she made a comment about anybody that wasn't her. She is the me, I, like no one else on planet Earth. Honest to God in heaven, I've never seen anything more disjointed. And when she had the deal laid on the table and she turned it down, I did a show and I said, I promise you, let me tell you what was going on. Sometimes you meet at an MP room, right? It's a multi-purpose room. They have them in every county jail while you're waiting to get sentenced to go to court. They have these little rooms that lawyers can come in and meet with their clients who are incarcerated. And it's either there or it's in a small little room where you meet with your attorney that's right off of the courthouse itself. They've got little rooms there because that's about the only time you're ever going to run into your public defender is in one of those two places. And I said at that time, let me tell you how that went down. That was her attorney in there going, you got to take this deal, right? This is the dumbest thing anyone has ever done. This deal is amazing. As your attorney, I have got to tell you to take this deal. I'll bet you he said that 25 or 30 times. I guarantee it. Chicken Cherry Cola, good to see you. Gaming Butter, how are you? Yes. Also, George made her drink. He forced her to drink until she peed her pants, until she fell down. And then he jabbed a bottle into her face to give her black eyes. She took the time. And if you look, I'm no psychiatrist, people. I'm not, right? I'm a convict. But the very start of this, they say to her, it starts out by saying that any narrative you want, right? You don't have to stick. We're not in court. You can talk in a narrative. You can talk any way you want. And her opening salvo is what? She says, are you ready? She says, this is an edited version of this. This is an edited version of this. It may seem really stupid and insignificant, right? But as a public speaker, you listen to something like that and you go, that's your opener. Why do you open with, this is an edited version of this? Because this is a control freak. I'm going to give you what you're going to hear, but you're not going to get all of it. You're not going to. I edited this down. I really wasn't sure how much I can give you or how much I should say or shouldn't say, but here's an edited version that I will give you, right? Everything is this narcissist shrew bestowing upon us mere mortals her generosity, her time, her wisdom. Boy, oh boy. If she had given this statement, right, when they were having a hearing to determine whether or not she was competent to stand trial, I'm being facetious. But in all honesty, I'm no shrink. But I know a narcissist when I see one. And the level of this woman's narcissism literally had no bounds. Hold on one second. So she opens up her statement talking about this art form that repairs things with gold, and she's going to be repaired like that. Damn it, right? She talks about being forced to go into pro se. Invaluable forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who or what or how you lived, right? But the gold, an act of grace and humility, considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow with withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deeper heartache, irreparable cracks on top of the already cracked that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths, or injustice. It doesn't matter, as the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become far more outstanding. This disjointed crap goes on like this for about 35 minutes. It is absolutely, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you have. And when you have forgive and you heal more. And now forward moving, my goal begins with George Torres. And every time he slapped me, kicked me, punched me, spat on me, R-worded me, stabbed me, choked me, laughed at me, pushed me, dragged me, whipped me, stole from me, lied to me, terrorized me, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded me, made me cry every time to try and defeat me or destroy me. I forgive you, George, for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work the next day, or for my son's field trip the following day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms and traditions and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television that we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass, kicking in my front door and back door over and over and over and over again. How many overs was that? Or breaking and removing the locks from all of the doors, and sometimes the knobs altogether, so that I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room, where he beat me bloody on his bed for terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open. I built up. This literally goes on for half an hour. This is a victim impact statement, but she's the friggin' victim. Can you imagine how effed up your brain pan has to be to write this as a way to let the world know that you're really not a person that should spend the rest of their life in prison? Hold on one second. Oh, this is a great reference too. Look into the sentencing from today for Melanie Ferris. Seriously, she saw Sarah Boone's statement and said, "Hold my beer." So Unhinged, let me know if you want me to send you the link. Absolutely. Please do. Please do. I love a wildly unhinged statement. You're going to have to go a long way to beat Sarah Boone. That rant that I just read you, where she talked about all of the injustices that were put upon her by George Torres, that's not the last of that. She keeps going back, and just by the end of it, what you come away with is this woman, and she says it, she is a survivor. If George Torres had killed her, then she just would have been another victim of domestic V, right? Domestic A. But since she survived, she has to wear the scarlet letter M for murderer. Yeah, how about that 15 years, Your Honor? Can we still put that? Holy hell. Honestly, with good times and all that, here's my statement, and I'm sticking with it. And if you disagree, everyone has a right to their own opinion. In my math, she'd have been out by 9 years. Maybe I'm wrong. My math, right? And that's without a crap load of programming. That's doing 85%. But call it a decade, right? How do you think year 11 is going to feel? Or 12, or 13, or 14, or 15? She couldn't take a deal that would have gotten her out in time to see her son get married because she's such a freaking narcissist that she cannot, for the life of herself, put up with any of that. You see, she didn't mean to do this. She accidentally zipped him up in a suitcase, told him to F you when he begged for his life, and then accidentally went upstairs and accidentally went to sleep. For what? A dozen hours? I'm being facetious, but not by much. I mean, this woman spent a whole lot of time asleep. Good Lord, people. He kept telling me that I would find my dog's bloated dead bodies in the pond or scrape their remains off the pavement for kicking them off of the bed and throwing them across the room because they were trying to protect me, for threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all the bones in my face. When apparently when he threatened, I will break all of the bones in your face, her deaf dog said, I must defend her. I'm sorry. I'm not making light of this kind of, she's just, good Lord. Or breaking all the bones in my face like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George's beating me like all of the times their father beat their mother, for all of the drunken rages in their fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped for drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, and then butting the end of the bottle into my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose, for making me experience what it is to be sodomized, threatening to kill my friends and my neighbors, and when they check on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece, for threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job, for holding me hostages on weekends. My son was supposed to come over and keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or to try to leave, for stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance. When did all of this crap happen? Right? Honestly, because in all of the times that she was interviewed, she mentioned, that she had a scratch on her leg that she had, but this level of abuse, how long did she have to be sober before she remembered it? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I know that a lot of people repress a lot of stuff, but she started throwing this guy under the bus literally before the rigor mortis had he was stuck in a position inside that suitcase. By the time that had relaxed, she had already decided that she was going to smuck this dude up as much as she possibly could. Absolutely. Of course there's help for you, John. Of course there's help for you, John. John, you know what? I had a $700 a day heroin habit. I robbed banks to get dope, right? I ran guns to get dope. I did everything illegal that you possibly could do to keep a buzz going. You can reach out, John. You can reach out to me, TommyScoville@gmail.com. And when the show is over, I promise you, my brother, I'll reach out to you. This is what we do. But you got to want it. Seriously. And I'm not being a dick. The reason that I say that is one of my favorite expressions is that when the student is ready, the teacher sort of shows up, right? The teacher just magically appears. I've been doing this now for a long time, and there's a crap load of people that will tell you they got sober because of the lifeboat. The common denominator in every one of them is that they were sick and tired of being the person that they were, right? My life sucked. And it finally got to a point where the fear of what it was going to take to make my life better was not as frightening as what my future looked like. I finally got to a point where one more sentence and I was never getting out of prison. It was that simple. I didn't have another one. I also knew that my addiction continues to grow, and that habit that I have that I haven't fed now in closing in on a decade. If I came back, it wouldn't be a 7 or 8 gram a day habit. It would be a 15 gram a day habit. And my substance of choice is gone. It's been replaced with Fent. All of these things are pretty heavy. You don't know what this pertains to sobriety. Well, here's how it works, man. Here's how it works. If you're comfortable living the life that you're living, then sobriety is not that big a deal, is it? Straight up. I know people who are very happy in their addictions, right? They usually don't show up on sobriety channels and tell people that they're not particularly happy, right? But there are people who are happy in their addictions. If you're not, then what this has to do with sobriety is that the opposite of addiction is connection. When we start to screw ourselves up with either drugs or habits or anything, because we all literally are in the same boat, whether you're overeating, whether you're sticking your fingers down your throat after you eat, right? Whether you're doing blow or you're drinking or whatever your poison is or whatever your habit is, gambling, sex, it's all the same. It really is. The mechanisms are all the same. But when you get to a point where you realize that you're unhappy in your own skin, what you're also going to realize is that you have cut yourself off from every positive relationship that you have, right? When we are living an active addiction, we do not connect with anybody except our substance or our habit. Right? That substance, that habit is what keeps us, right, from connection. If you force connection into your life with people who aren't going out and partying and aren't doing drugs and aren't doing this, you literally have to break the habits that you're in. And for years, I would pick 3 of the 4 things I needed to fix. I'm not going to do any dope anymore. That's done. I'm not doing that shit. I'm not going to break the law anymore. I'm not doing any of that crap, right? I go down the list. However, I'm not cutting all my friends out of my life. What am I, a scumbag? I've known these people for decades, man. And a lot of them got me through some bad times, right? When I was dope sick, these guys would show up and get me high. Why in the name of God would I cut those people off? Now, if you're referring to the format of the show, look, I'm not a sobriety channel. I'm not. I'm a guy that did a crap load of dope. But we've never been a sobriety channel. We're not. And here's something that's probably a real shocker and pisses a bunch of people off, but I really don't even advocate abstinence necessarily as the number one way to do what you do. I don't. It's everybody's different, and I'm no friggin' guru. I'm not. I am well aware of the fact that you can move in the right direction or the wrong direction. Right? If you're continuing to do dope on a daily basis, if the amount of dope that you're doing every day starts to decrease, it's called harm reduction. If you switch from doing heroin to doing weed, there are people that call that a really horrific thing. You're just trading one drug for another. It's a hell of a trade. Sorry, it's a hell of a trade. So the stuff I do around here is a little different, and I do a crap load of true crime. And the reason I do true crime is because I spent a lot of my life as a criminal, and it gives me some insight that a lot of people seem to enjoy listening to. And we live in a world where where crime is part of every single news story these days, isn't it? Farmer's Grip, good to see you. Andrew B, how are you? So if I talked about sobriety all day, every day, which I would absolutely love to do, I'd get about 600 views a day if I was lucky, and I would have 6,000 subscribers. I build the channel talking about true crime, and then we do a hell of a lot of content on the daily that is about staying sober. If you get up early in the morning, you'll catch most of it. Tyler Jackson, good to see you. Well, Kristen Melinda, the true crime isn't going anywhere. Wow. Why, thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry. So, yeah, no, the true crime thing is it hits. It does. It's one of the most popular subjects on planet Earth. And if you lived your life in if you made a lot of mistakes growing up, if you fractured a couple of laws, if you spent some time in the system, often it gives you some insight that sometimes is a little bit different. You know something, Andrew B? This is this actually got a lot of traction, and I owe that entire concept to Mark Wages, who was a partner of mine in the early days of the Lifeboat. Hey, just as I am, good to see you. In the very early days of the Lifeboat, my partner, Mark Wages, was really big on pushing the boundaries and talking about stuff other than recovery. And I wasn't sold. If I had listened to him earlier on, we probably would be a bigger channel at this point. I'm happy at the way we've grown, but he was very sharp in saying, you know what, you spread the content around. And I'll be really honest. When I told people what I was doing and I was getting the lifeboat up and running, every person I talked to said, "You're going to fail. You're going to fail. That channel doesn't have a chance." And I didn't give a crap. The beauty of it is I didn't care, right? So didn't much matter. All right, Crushy, I get the message. Back to Suitcase Sarah. This is an individual that literally was given the golden ticket. Right? The prosecution handed this dumb narcissist murderer a golden ticket. You always get a good offer. You do. No matter what anybody says, you always get a good offer. Sean Combs is going to get a good offer. He is. Even if he gives up nothing, even if he doesn't say, yeah, I'm willing to help, I'm willing to do this, they want to save the BS of having to go to trial. It's very expensive, right? It's time consuming, and they would much rather save that cash if they can just get the person to plead guilty. And you know what? If the person does 15 years, I mean, it's not like she's a serial killer, right? She did screw up. She zipped somebody up in a suitcase, and she allowed that person to pass away. Yeah, she turned down 15 years, man. 15 years that she would not have done 15 years on, right? She'd have done 8.5 years on 10, right? So she would have been looking at what, 13 baker's dozen, somewhere in there. Now, you program it all, you take some GED courses, or you take, there's a lot of things that you can do to try to work some time off. However, narcissism, people, you understand? What this gets down to in its bare element is, I'm not going to say I did something wrong because I didn't mean to kill him. Yeah, I zipped him up. Yes, I left him in there overnight, but I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying. If you've watched the interviews, she just keeps saying it over and over again. She keeps saying, but not on purpose. But not on purpose. But not on purpose. Who gives a crap? Honestly, do you think the Torres family cares whether or not you did it on purpose? Well, even if they might have. When you went on and blamed them, I forgive the Torres family for not intervening, right? They knew that he was beating the crap out of me. I talked to them about it. I reached out to them. I forgive them. Well, I'll tell you what, you are solid. And right before I kind of scrolled off on my tangent, someone was saying that there really is that super chat. They were saying there is a much worse example. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I want to see somebody that is more unhinged than Miss Boone. She felt the need. Hold on a second. This was also great. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was and what he was capable of and has done in the past, his history of violence, and where he learned it from. Classy. Saying that, obviously bagging on the family, right? Wow. And knowing who George was, what he was capable of, what he's done in the past, history of violence, and where he learned it. And then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help, all of his siblings, including Faye Torres, who was in the place there apparently that day. I'm sorry, he was now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of the head. For everyone who knew what George was doing to me, you got to badmouth the family for some other crime that happened. You low-life piece of vermin. Then she went off on social media, and just how bad social media is, right? Sarah tried by asking for help from all of us. And so anytime somebody starts talking about themselves in the third person, right? Like the Tommy Scoville is never going to do this because Tommy Scoville is offended by people that, what the hell is the matter with you? Another great contributor of my gold is social media. Gold being the repairs, right, as we were talking about earlier. With its greed, insensitivity, deception, obvious exploitation, and advantages game from my criminal case. Advantages game from what an odd choice of them from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media, which condemned me in the court of global public opinion since the beginning of my family law case. What the hell is the new prey waiting to be picked apart and pillaged from me, being made infamous by social media in my criminal case? It had nothing to do with the fact that I zipped my boyfriend up in a suitcase, cursed at him while he begged for his life, right? And then went through one after another public defender until it became a joke. Literally a joke. 5 years, right? We're almost at the 5-year mark after this crime was committed before it even shows up in court. This woman is a disgrace of a human being. To smut up the family of the victim, just absolutely disgusting. But she forgives us too, these social media scumbags. She was made infamous by social media in her criminal case, and it is simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven and move forward. Social media has made me a pariah, and has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online in my criminal case. As a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced, successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them also, all of the media tycoons, for having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness for prejudgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from me and from my other misfortunate accidents and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and all over their keyboards. This would be the blood. Their blood is all over. You are lost. Lost. Everybody has victimized poor Sarah Boone. You gotta almost have to shed a tear for her. Kristen Melinda says, how magnanimous of her. Yeah, I mean, right? This kind of loving and compassionate forgiveness, I hope this is not lost on the Lifeboat audience. I know that there was a time that I called her the dumbest defendant that ever lived. And now I almost feel bad about it because I was just so damn right. I said at the time, you know what? There's a damn good chance this woman could end up getting life. What an ignoramus. And I promise you, hey, Jeremy Fowler, it's absolutely one of those situations where her attorney sat across from her and said, please, Sarah, please think about this. You're going to get life in prison if you don't take this deal. You're going to get life in prison if you don't take this deal. You know what it came down to, honestly? She could not bear the thought of taking any responsibility whatsoever. Yeah, Paula Penley says she thought she was going to walk. She's what's called a cookie boo in Scotland. You know what? I like that. Yeah. Social media. Lumen says she loves herself. Ooh, boy, does she. Sing Blood on the keyboard to Genesis. Blood on the rooftops. Not bad. Not bad, Incarnasol. I could probably put something together to that. Keyboard. Bloody keyboard. No wonder her poor lawyer seemed like he was struggling to defend her. Oh, God, Angie Lee. Oh, my Lord. there are people that have beat on this guy. They say he's out of touch. He called women sweetheart. He just said a lot of stuff that's just kind of a stupid older guy. I'm sorry. Kind of a caveman, a throwback to the last generation of men. But you gotta cut this dude some slack in terms of having a shitty job to do. Can you imagine trying to defend this woman? God help us. God help us. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do I think that she suffered abuse? I do. I do think she suffered abuse. But what I think it was, and I'm not, by the way, there's never, ever, ever an excuse or a reason for a man to hit a woman. That's it. There's not, right? There's just not an excuse for that. This is a situation where she outweighed the guy she was beating on, who was beating on her. No joke. He was a very, very small guy, right? He fit in a suitcase. She was bigger than he was, number one. I'm not, again, trust me when I say there's no, but this was a situation where two people were wildly, wildly abusing alcohol on the regular, right? I mean, and I think that the both of them abused the crap out of each other. I get the vibe, and this is just one guy's opinion. I'm no shrink, but the vibe that I got was that she really held over his head, his probation officer, all of the meetings that he had to go to. One call from her to his when she said, "You have no idea how close I am with his probation officer. I talk to his probation officer all the time." I went, "Oh Lord, your girl or your guy, your significant other, should not be calling your probation officer. That's not a good thing. I promise you, that's not a good thing. There are no probation officers out there that want that." That was her being a manipulative. She had him where she wanted him. It's a absolutely horrific thing. And then she talked about how I drove him to every one of those meetings. I took him to every one of his what do you call it? Anger management, domestic violence classes, all of those things. I took him to all of that. I knew snitchery is right. Snitchery is right. Electric Boogaloo, good to see you. Yeah, it's awful. But that's how I view it. Was there abuse there? Tons of it. Tons of it. But I think she was abusing him. I think he was abusing her. I think they both abused one another physically, right? I think honestly they both got drunk and beat on each other pretty regularly. And the safe money is always on the guy in a physical confrontation with a woman, right? The safe money is always going to be on the dude. But this is not, if this had been me and her, right? It would have really been a different kind of a situation. I think because of the fact that she outweighed him, it's that kind of abuse could go on for a lot longer. Do you understand what I'm saying? If the guy beating on you is 220 pounds, you're going to end up in a hospital really quickly. She claims all of these things at the very end here about going to the hospital. But if you go back and look at all the stuff that she said in the beginning, she went to the hospital once. That's what she claimed. And then, that was the time that she got cut on her leg. True Crime Boozer said she staged abuse to weaponize the police. There is absolutely a ton of evidence that says that. He definitely, George Torres definitely had a record of being arrested for domestic violence. That does not always mean that the person, there are states, for instance, that if there is a call made to the police for domestic violence, policy dictates someone is getting arrested. One of the two parties is going to get arrested 100 out of 100 times. Now, the truth of the matter is, in places like that, both parties, especially when alcohol and drugs are involved, weaponize that process. If your girl is completely loaded and acting like an ass, there are people out there that know that if they call and say, "You know what, she just slapped me," they're going to come out there and take her to jail. And there are women who do the same thing to guys. And unfortunately, obviously this is super unhealthy, and it waters down the system. I think that the vast majority of times that people call about DV, it's legit. However, I think she's somebody that absolutely weaponized the police. I do believe that. I think that a lot of this is a super god-awful, unhealthy relationship. But a lot of that I will happily put on to the murderer that just got life in prison without the possibility of parole. The rest of her life is now get up, right? Go to the chow hall, come back to the unit, go to the chow hall, come back to the unit, go to the chow hall, come back to the unit, go to bed, get up, do it again. She's going to do that every day until she takes her last breath. And this dumb, unbelievably arrogant, narcissist piece of dog trash, no offense to the dogs, I was referring to their excrement. All she had to do, right, was show a quarter of an ounce of humility. And she'd have been out in 2040, right? At the latest, she'd have been out in 2040. I take that back. She already had 4 years in. She had 4 years in. If she took that deal, she would have had 9 more to bring him, right? Oh, God, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, you arrogant? Sharon says, I knew a woman that was dating a cop, then staged a DV event to get her ex-husband to leave the house. It happens. It does. It does. It absolutely does. And you know something? It happens both ways. I know a guy in the state of Nevada that called the police on his girl for domestic violence. She hit him. It was legit. And then they drank. They had a very serious drinking problem. And at a later date, she hit him in the head with a vodka bottle and cut him badly. And when he went to the hospital to get stitches, he told them what happened. They called the police. As it ended up, the third time she got a DV, the third time they got called for domestic violence, she had to do 3 years in prison. You know, third time's a charm. But in a state where they're going to arrest somebody every single time they come out, if somebody calls the law on you 3 times, and then the crazy thing is this, you'll see this happen. A guy will go to prison for DV because he, third time, he's probably guilty of it, hitting her or whatever. He'll get out and get back with the same woman. The next time it happens, it's a decade, right? You get a second felony DV in the state of Nevada. That's a decade. Yeah, Sir Tedrick's pretty sharp. Pretty sharp. I think she projected on George's family how she was raised to produce her own narcissism. I think you're probably right. I really do. But this here is absolutely a fact, right? She was so drunk in the videos released. And I'll tell you what. You remember how much she freaked out about the medication she had in her purse at the end of that first interrogation or the second interrogation where she knew she was going to jail? She said, "Oh no, I need my I have anxiety medication." I think she was taking either some heavy benzo. She was taking a lot of Xanax, or she was taking Klonopin or one of those. But she was drinking on top of benzos. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch the difference between her in her interrogations and her on the stand. We're talking about, as far away as East is from West, right? One talks like this, and and the other is hard, right? The person that was interrogated right after the murder, that is a very, very different version of old Sarah Boone, don't you think? Disturbing all the way around, if you ask me. But I hope that this brings some level of justice, right? Or some you don't get closure and stuff like this. I hope that there's just some level of where the family feels like at least this vile human being is never going to step foot on the freedom side of a fence ever again. Tara Jackson says it's a good way to call the cops without calling the cops. Easy peasy to frame somebody. It really is, isn't it? It really is. Andrew B says, oh my, when I was prescribed benzos led to a lot of trouble. For people that drink benzos, it's just 1 + 1 = 3. One benzo, one drink. It's like having 3 benzos. Yeah, you're right, Jeremy Fowler. You're absolutely right. This lady grossed me out from the get-go. You're 100% right. One of the most chilling audio tapes ever. Isn't it, man? Isn't it? You talk about callousness, right? Just unbelievable, no respect at all for human beings, for human life. It's just one of the most disturbing, the level of disregard. Even the morning of the day that they found him in the suitcase, the day that she called 911, when they came out, she was so off from the very first second that they showed up. Nothing about her was right. You know something? This is a big deal. It's a way bigger deal than I think we sometimes give it credit for. What a blessing. No joke. What a blessing that family. Think of the Sharon Tate's family. Sharon Tate's family has been going to all of the Manson parole hearings since 1969. Never missing any of them, going every single time. You got to relive that every time you go back there. You got to look at the scumbags that did this to your loved one, and you got to continually keep living that and keep living that. That's no way to, no one should have to endure that, in my humble opinion. No one should have to endure that. And I'm glad, I really am. I'm glad that that's something that they're not going to have to endure. And I think that that's pretty astute. Yeah, true crime boozer for real. I think that's a pretty sharp statement. It's hey, Franklin MC, good to see you, man. Hold on one second. All righty, folks. That brings us to about the top of the hour. Let me tell you what will be going on around here. In about an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, give or take. About an hour and 20 minutes, I'm going to be live on the Sean Atwood program. I'm going to have a friend or two with me. Might want to check it out. Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure if I know what you're you're referencing, Cajun Queen. Yeah, not Cajun Queen. Oh, yeah. Ooh. What about the person who called in on the phone to be a witness for her? That was nuts. I don't know. I'm not sure who that is. You know something? This is a pretty intelligent. I was alluding to this earlier, right? I may not have said it as articulately as you just did, but I was alluding to this earlier. This person is obviously okay to face trial, right? They can assist in their own defense, right? Whatever. But do you think this person is so off their rocker? I mean, maybe just really high functioning, but this is a person that, I mean, how in the name of God does anyone pull this off? Sid Green, I'm not sure. All I know is that when Patricia Kringwinkle, all of the women that participated in the death of Sharon Tate, they went to every one of those parole hearings. As far as Chuck goes, I don't know. The pen pal who called in was just creepy. I didn't know about the pen pal. You know what, though? I promise you, any case that goes on for 4 years where you stay in the county jail, there are jackasses that are going to come all out of the woodwork and start trying to put themselves into this. High functioning psychosis, Franklin, point taken. Paul Bernardo. Oh, man, Paul Bernardo is such a low life, isn't he? Heard on an earlier broadcast how the feds claim to not have an actual film. And along came Sarah. Yay! Hold my magnum of Chardonnay. Yeah, right? There you go. There's a film on tape. Right there it is. Well, well played. Absolutely well played. If I think about Carla Homolka, absolutely, I agree with you. There's a woman out living in the free world after what she's done. I hope that she steps on a Lego every morning of her life for the rest of eternity. She deserves that. For real. And I hope she doesn't get to wear comfortable shoes ever. She should have to wear pumps 24 hours a day forever. All right, people. I'm going to go get ready for this Sean Atwood program. You do not want to miss this one. This is going to be more fun than a barrel of monkeys. I can't back that up. And honestly, I also couldn't back up that a barrel full of primates would be fun. Could be really awful. But either way. All right, peeps. That's the news, and I am out of here. Between now and the next time I see you, I hope that you reach out and try to save somebody. Thank you to all of the kindness. Appreciate you people. You know what? It's the holiday season. If you're struggling, reach out to us, please. Appreciate you.